Hey guys, it's Josh,
And Bryn?
and we are Idaho Prepared. So today we are going to discuss defensive weapons, what the purpose is, what a defensive weapon is as well, and what may be the best option for you or and why. So
So to start out, let's define a defensive weapon. A defensive weapon is a weapon that is strictly for your personal or the defense of innocent people around you. That being said, there's many different kinds of defensive weapons. But to dive right into it, let's go to my everyday carry, which is a Smith & Wesson M&P 9 VTAC. And this weapon is a full frame sidearm. It has a 17 plus 1 capacity. That's 17 rounds in the magazine plus 1 in the chamber. It is equipped with night sights. I'm not sure what element they're using in the Viking Tactical Trijicon night sights, but it's a two-sight system. And what I mean by that is it's got the illuminated sights on top and then white dot sights underneath them. The white dot sights are what I use predominantly when training because the other sights shoot a little bit high for me. Um, they also come, these M&Ps come with three back straps from the factory to fit to your hand because this entire weapon system is built around ergonomics. And what I mean by ergonomics is this slide release is right there on your thumb. You don't have to do anything when changing a magazine but throw your thumb down. It's so far back that you can comfortably, you don't have to do the whole gun turn thing. I've seen a lot of people turn their weapon like this when reloading. That's fine. If that's the way you're comfortable in doing it. Me personally, I like to keep it on target, drop my magazine and slide it in. One feature with these M&Ps that a lot of people call a malfunction, I personally like it, and a lot of Smith & Wesson M&P users do as well. That's the only reason that Smith & Wesson hasn't changed the design to fix this malfunction, if you will. That malfunction is when you fire your last round and your slide's held back, and you drop an empty magazine and you throw a full magazine in. That magazine, when you throw it in, will actually it'll set in motion the slide charging the first round in without you having to use the thumb release. A lot of people don't like that. I happen to like it, and a lot of other M&P users like it because it makes your magazine changes that much faster. I've yet to have it charged without a round. Every time it's ever done it, it's put a round in and been ready to go to work. So for me, that's a feature that I like. Um, I chose the Hogue overmolded backstrap grip, and it puts those finger grooves that you see right there, so you can really get your hand in it and have some really good control over the weapon. But the one thing that I don't like about M&Ps, I did it to my last M&P. I haven't done it to this one yet. I really should. I've had this one long enough. There's really no excuse. Is the trigger. I don't like this much play in this hinged trigger. It has a center hinge trigger safety, and I prefer the Glock style center safety. And what it is, Apex International, I believe, is the company that makes the replacement for these M&Ps, and you can look those up. It has a safety in the center. It's a protruding lever in the center. It really gives your pad a target to grab a hold of that trigger in the proper pad placement. If you know anything about shooting, whether it be a sidearm, a shotgun, a rifle, bolt action, semi-automatic, whatever, your pad placement is everything because it's either going to push your shot or it's going to pull your shot. There's targets out there that you can shoot at to see what your pad placement is and whether or not you're at the proper pad placement for an accurate shot. I've used these targets. I suggest everyone out there use them as well. You can easily find them on the internet. Just search pad placement target. It's a trainer, and it will teach you where you need to put your pad at when firing a weapon. Um, the rounds that I use a specific defense round because it is a hollow point. It's a very deep hollow point. It has very little penetration. These little boogers will knock anything off its feet, but they will not go through it, and that's a big deal. And I'll get more into that when we talk about home defense. But for a sidearm that I carry every day, and this is a much more viable option for me because I do open carry. I don't conceal carry. Josh is a concealed carrier, and he'll get into concealed carry and why he concealed carries. The reason I open carry is because it's just the way I've trained, and that's the way I'm comfortable and confident. My environment allows me to open carry every day. It allows me to be an educator for the Second Amendment because there's a lot of people that walk up and say, "Hey, are you a cop? Is that why you carry?" No, I carry because it's our Second Amendment right, and I get to educate a little bit.
mm-hmm.
But that's why this works for me. Now, Josh can go into what he carries and why he carries it.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to touch on that because I've been in public with you when we went to go buy foods for our MRE class.
Right.
We had somebody come up and he was able to explain why he open carried and just really opened this guy's eyes. He was a young guy and just seemed confused more than anything. So it was really a great opportunity there.
It is.
What I do is I carry concealed, and there's a specific reason for that. A lot of it has to do with my environment. As he stated, he works outside. He works in an environment where, that's acceptable. Whereas with my environment, I work in downtown Boise. Being in downtown, whatever the reason may be, for me, it makes more sense to be the gray man, if you will, and to blend in and not be seen, not be somebody that's, everybody's looking at. I'm not looking for, when I'm in that environment, to be an educator. So for me, it makes more sense. So for myself, I carry the Glock 43. Just subcompact gun. It's a really great gun. I mean, without getting into too much details, honestly, this is a newer gun to me. I've had it for probably about 3 months, so I guess I can't say new. But it truly is. And honestly, there's a transition I still have to work on. For me, I went from the Glock 23, which is a mid-size, to the Glock 43. And a lot of it is retraining myself that finger pad placement, because it is, when I am going to grab it and I'm going to draw and I'm putting it on target, it is an adjustment because of how much smaller it is. Naturally, my finger wants to overreach. So there's things I need to work on with it, but it is a great gun so far. So that's why I carry the Glock 43. And
well, and to further touch on the differences between the full frame and the compact, when going through that transition that Josh is talking about, don't get discouraged, because the 4.25 inch barrel on my full frame is obviously going to be more accurate and obviously going to be able to stretch out much further than the short barrel that's on these little compacts. You have to understand that gun isn't meant to engage a target at 50 yards, where this one's going to be much more suitable. That weapon is made to engage targets at 10 and in. 15, maybe at the most. You're not going to be shooting any kind of, $half size groups at 20 yards with a compact of any model. Whether it be a Glock, a Smith & Wesson, a Ruger, anything. I don't care what it is. It's not going to happen. You can go buy the top of the line Bodyguard, which is Smith & Wesson Shield, their performance center, which has the ported barrel and the ported slide and nickel plated this, that, and blah, blah, blah. You're not going to be as accurate with that weapon as you are a base model M&P. It's not going to happen. The same can be said if it's a full frame Glock or a full frame. It's going to be more accurate. It's going to be much more capable of reaching out to those further distances. Speaking in the sense of a sidearm, I don't care what you're shooting as a sidearm, unless it's a U.S. A freaking competition unlimited class bipoded 22 Magnum. You're not going to be stretching out to 100 yards with a sidearm. It's just not going to happen. You might get lucky once or twice. I've gotten lucky once or twice. It happens. You're just not going to be able to get on target at that distance.
Right.
That's not what these weapons are made for. So don't get discouraged if you're going to carry a compact or a subcompact and your target grouping isn't what you're used to it being with your full frame. They're totally different.
It is a huge adjustment.
It is. It really is.
I think it goes back to the fact of your environment, and you have to make that decision. Mine is really more so that reactive, get out of the situation.
Well, and in your situation,
close.
I mean, if there's an active threat at your work, it's a cubicle environment. You're not going to have those extended distances. Or if you're in your parking garage, you're not going to have those huge distances. Even in the street, in the downtown grid block area, outside the building, you're not going to have those extreme distances. As where with myself, I'm in much more broad areas. I'm out in public a lot more, just the open public, and this weapon choice seems to suit me better.
Right.
But the next subject, when it comes to defensive weapons, is obviously not going to be from in public personal defense. It's going to be home defense. There's a million different ways you can go with home defense. It's all going to depend on your situation. And what I mean by that is, how many kids do you have in the house? Where are your pets? Do you have pets? Do they sleep in your bedroom with you? Do they sleep in crates? Are they not a factor because they're outside dogs? I mean, what is your situation until? Do you have a two-story house? Do you have a ranch style house? Do you have an L-shaped ranch? Do you, you know, whatever the situation may be? Do you have basement access from outside where an intruder can be coming up through your basement? It's all going to depend on a million different variables, and you have to look at your situation specifically. For me, I live in a ranch style single-story house. It's a two-bedroom little house. It's not really huge. So, with that being said, my best situation is going to be clear this Mossberg 505 Youth 20 gauge. And this is actually a dual purpose weapon. This is my fiance's bird gun as well as our home defense gun. It holds 4 3-inch shells in the tube, and it holds 1 in the chamber, so you have 5 20 gauge rounds. I don't see a threat being more demanding of anything than 5 12 gauge or 20 gauge rounds. This is going to do everything that I need it to do as a home defense weapon. It may not be what you would choose for yours. This is what suits us. Ideally, I'd like to have a Mossberg 590A1 with an extended magazine and a collapsible extended magazine tube and a collapsible stock. That's just me, and eventually we'll be there. But right now, this is what we have, and this is something that I, as a 6'2", large wingspaned person, can easily shoulder and maneuver inside of a house. It's not too long.
Right.
It's rather compact for a shotgun, but at the same token, my fiance can go grab this and defend herself with it. She's very familiar with it. She can shoot anything from skeet to a home intruder with it. It's a weapon that suits us both, and I'm not always home. She's not always home, so there's a lot of times that it's just one of us, and we needed a weapon that would be able to work with both of us.
Right.
Some of you guys out there might be bachelors or bachelorettes, and it may just be you at home, and you only need a weapon to suit you. This is what fits our situation, and I highly recommend everyone evaluate your situation, what layout you have, what's going to be good for you. The big positives to a shotgun, whether it be a 20 gauge or a 12 gauge, is that 9 times out of 10, you're not going to penetrate walls with this. So if you do have kids, it's not going to go through the wall into their bedroom, as where, say, an AR-15 will. I guarantee you. There's not one round that comes out of the AR-15 besides a blank that's not going to go through a wall. That's just my personal preference, though. Josh, can elaborate on those.
Mine's completely separate, and I understand what he's saying with the shotgun. If you have kids, I have a different perspective, and the reason that is because I have a very young family. For me, a shotgun is not ideal. For any parent, I don't believe when they're as young as mine are, a shotgun is ideal. And the reason I say that is because I think of the worst case scenario. I think of me, clearing a corner, coming around, and there's somebody holding one of my children. Right. I can't take that risk. If I'm going to engage the target, I have to be confident that my gun will not hit my kids. So for me, it goes back to the Glock 43. I'm going to use it as a concealed carry, and I'm going to keep it at my house as my defensive weapon.
Right. So. And I mean, another aspect to something that's magazine fed versus something like a shotgun is loading the shotgun, even though it's only 5 rounds, unless you've practiced hours and hours and hours and hours in a competitive setting, you're not going to load this shotgun very fast. So if for some reason you need more than the few rounds that the shotgun holds, you're going to have substantial cover to be able to reload.
Right.
As where something like his Glock, he can drop a magazine out and put it back in a matter of seconds. So again, it's going to have to go to what your situation is, what fits best for you, as far as your home defense weapon. But if you're going to go AR-15, and there's no way I can convince you otherwise, and don't get me wrong, I love the AR-15 platform. In my opinion, it's one of the best platforms ever designed. I would recommend something similar to this. This is my 10.5-inch AR-15 pistol, and why the reason it's a pistol is it has the SIG brace. This weapon you cannot shoulder.
Right.
It is illegal to shoulder this weapon. You are violating the NFA by having basically now, because of the intended purpose that you're using it for, you have a SBR that's unregistered. So what you can do is what I've done here. I am a huge fan of Fab Defense. If you are a distributor for Fab Defense, send me all the goodies you want because I love you guys.
That's right.
But I run the Fab Defense backup iron sights as well as the Fab Defense angled foregrip, and I have a thumb stop. And the reason for this thumb stop is because I have total control over this weapon now that my thumb is locked into it. I'm also running the Fab Defense ergonomic pistol grip. But the reason that the ergonomics and this fitting in my hand so well is because I can't shoulder it. I have to rest my cheek behind it. And that is legal by the way that the ATF is written, and you can get online and look up. There is no designation for placing your face behind the rifle. If this brace wasn't here and it was just the tube, you would still be allowed to do that. So anybody out there is going to say that I'm wrong in that, look it up, do your research. It's not illegal. But I can easily get behind this weapon and I can easily maneuver it. This is my active threat kit weapon that stays in my truck. This guy right here lives in my truck, and it goes everywhere my truck goes. The reason for that is because just like things that we just saw at Ohio State University, as well as what happened at Virginia Tech and what happened in Dallas, you have active threats. And sometimes they're not all shooters, so we're not going to call them active shooters. The guy at Ohio State actually was in a car with a large blade.
Yep.
That's a situation that I would be able to respond to, and we will make a video on the active threat kit that I personally carry in my vehicle and what I have in it. But this, for a home defense weapon, if you're gonna go AR-15, like I said, there's no way I can possibly convince you otherwise. Pay the $200 for a tax stamp for an SBR, or get yourself an AR-15 pistol. Another reason this is such a great deal for close quarters defense is this guy right here. This is the CAC Industries, spelled K-A-K, CAC Industries flash can, and it's sitting inside of a UTG Pro 13-inch rail. And you can see I had to mill off, or I had to have a buddy of mine mill off the fins on the side of the rail because I'm using the side charge upper. The reason I went with the side charging upper on this is because I can stay on target and work a malfunction out of the bolt instead of having to come off a target and pull a slide release back here. This, to me, is a huge tactical advantage. I also have an ergonomic mag release, which is very easy to work, and it's closer to my finger. I can get a better hold on it. I've used this weapon in wet weather training as well as dry weather training. It's a phenomenal option for, like I said, an active threat kit. I personally wouldn't go for it as a home defense weapon because of that penetration access.
Right.
Aspect. You will go through walls with it. There's no question. If you don't believe me, go buy a sheet of drywall or go to a construction site, get some scraps, 2x4s and drywall, put them out at the range, fire a couple rounds on it. Every single round you're going to fire at, it's going to go through it. And then do the same thing with a shotgun, or do the same thing with a hollow point sidearm. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a lot less likelihood of penetrating with hollow point sidearm or pistol cartridges and shotgun rounds than you are a rifle cartridge. It's going to happen. It's going to go through. So keep that in mind if this is going to be your option for home defense. But that's pretty much the basis of what we have. I'm not even going to get into bolt guns, because if you're going to defend your home with a bolt gun, there's nothing I can tell you, and there's probably no hope for your situation in general. You need to take it a little bit more serious than to try to defend your house with a bolt gun. That's just my take on it personally. You have anything else, Josh?
No. I mean, I will add this. I recently shot the Vortex Strikefire. I just got it. Vortex Strikefire 2.
Yes.
I gotta say,
that is the optic that is on here.
Yeah, first time I shot this short-barreled rifle. Pistol, excuse me. Not a rifle.
Not a rifle.
First time I shot that pistol, I was highly impressed with it, so I actually went out and got one. So Vortex making great glass, great optics.
Great glass. And when I get my DMR put together, I have a Vortex Strike Eagle on it, and on my bolt gun, and I'll get into that when we do our purpose-built weapons. Vortex is my recommendation for every optic. If you have a sidearm you want to put a red dot on, they have those micro dots that are amazing. They have no magnification red dots like the Vortex Strikefire. 2 phenomenal optics. They're great. I've gotten quite a few buddies that have shot this weapon and have went out and bought them, Josh being one of them. I've taken that weapon out to 300 yards with the red dot, and it's not difficult to do. It's really not hard at all. It's got settings for what brightness you want your reticle. It can switch from red to green for low light situations. I actually do have a glint, or the flash kill, that keeps your flash on your optic. There's just so many options that come with it. It's crazy.
And they truly take care of veterans.
Oh, they do. They have 40% off, I believe, for veterans. They have one of the best warranties out there. There's literally stories where guys have lost their optics in house fires Vortex, they're having no questions asked. You can send them a video of you bashing it with a hammer. They'll send you a new one. I mean, seriously, I'm not even going to say don't do it, because there's people who have done it, and they do. They honor their product. Whether it be a spotting scope, binoculars, rifle scope, no matter what it is, if it's from Vortex, you're going to get a replacement. So that's my recommendation for any optic on any weapon. They have a huge line of different products. Look into them. They're great guys. They're a great company.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you in the future. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Take care.